back to the Global Falcons podcast. I'm your host, Andrew L.G. Hunter.
And I'm your host, Angela Hunter.
And we are here with Kristyn Mcdougall.
Hi, nice to meet you guys.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
We're very excited.
Yeah, you've lived quite the life. We're excited to dive into it.
Sounds good.
What should we start with? I guess.
What should we start with? Yeah, who
tell
are
us
you?
a little bit about yourself and what you do on a daily basis.
Sure. So my name's Kristen. I'm a 32-year-old Métis woman. I just graduated law school in November, but have kind of taken a different path after law school. I'm currently working in Indigenous health research, working with incarcerated Indigenous women. And aside from that, I'm also a beadwork artisan. So I have my own little side business. And then I do some Indigenous fashion modeling as well.
Mm-hmm. Which is
so
Andrew's
cool.
pin that you made.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing is beautiful.
I'm so glad you like it.
And you know what? I was at the Indigenous business gathering, and a few people spotted it, and they knew exactly where it came from.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you got quite the name out there for yourself.
Yeah.
Starting to,
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So, wait, tell us a little bit more about the incarceration stuff.
Yeah, so I currently work with Pewasquisquan, which is the Indigenous Research Health Group at the College of Medicine. And so I'm working on a project called Apikatatan, where essentially we're developing a land and culture-based healing program for Indigenous women who have recently been released from incarceration. So we're still in the initial planning phases of that, and the program, we're hoping to launch it in September of this year. And so we're hoping to provide intervention for a total of around 30 Indigenous women coming out of jail, and just to sort of record and see what the health and wellness outcomes of the program are as the women go through it.
Wow. So
Yeah.
is that like a weekly update with them, or like?
Yeah, so the program, we're still figuring out the parameters of everything, but we're hoping probably to deliver 2 sessions a week for about 10 weeks. And so we're still figuring out exactly like what the metrics are and data collection methods will be and things like that. But it's more about their short-term health and wellness. And I really love this project because it is more focused on, the health and wellness aspect as opposed to like preventing recidivism and things that I think a lot of post-incarceration programs focus on. So it's definitely a different take on it, and an area that I'm really interested in, because in my undergrad, that was sort of my focus, was Indigenous justice and criminology. And so it kind of ties back into my earlier like educational roots before law school, and also into law school as well a little bit. So
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How was your law school experience?
I'm glad it's over. I can say that much. I went back to school kind of as a more mature student. So I think it was definitely a different experience than maybe like many of my colleagues would have had. I wasn't so much involved in like the social scene and things like that. I liked parts of law school, but obviously it's a really strenuous program. It's really stressful. A lot of reading. I'm finally getting back my joy of like reading for fun. I finally finished just like a novel. It's the first one I'd finished since law school, and I was pretty pleased that I'm kind of rediscovering that, because reading was just a chore.
Yeah, I still haven't read a novel for fun. I started and I was like, I'm not even ready for this
We
yet.
have like totes and totes of novels or books.
I used to love reading,
Yeah.
but same thing with law school. It just like killed it for me.
Your joy for it. No, I'm really glad I did it, and I'm not even sure that I'm going to like pursue being a practicing legal professional, but I'm excited to see like what I can do with this degree that isn't. I might decide to be a lawyer, but right now I'm really happy with where I've landed, and some other opportunities have been opening up for me. So I'm kind of going to explore that before, like my best friend's articling right now, and it just sounds like so much. And I guess I'll just see where that leads for me.
Yeah, I would think it's even more stressful as an article or articling.
Articling.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're just everyone's
Well, they're like workhorses, right?
Yeah.
So seeing my friend, I one thing that was challenging in law school, like I have, some mental health struggles as well as, like a cognitive disability. So going through law school and actually doing it full time, I was accepted as a part-time student and I finished it only like 3 months behind the rest of my peers. So that was really a big accomplishment for me. But knowing that articling, it's like almost expected you're going to be working, 60 hours a week in a really mentally and emotionally strenuous job. I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, I at least need a bit of a breather before I can go through that for sure. Yeah.
What kind of things did you do to like combat the mental problems, stressors, I should say?
Yeah, I mean that was hard. I mean, thankfully the culture around that is changing a bit because the legal profession, has really high rates of like mental health struggles.
Alcoholism too.
Yeah, substance abuse. So I felt like in school there were a lot more accommodations available than there would have been before, and that was really helpful. But I did feel like staying rooted in my culture, my community really helped me get through law school, and even finding those peers that were going through similar things, being able to make those connections really helped. I also just like my pets and self-care, being like I'm gonna go have a bath and actually just relax, but it's hard because you feel so guilty all the time and it like adds to it. But yeah, no, and then just like making sure to take care of myself, and learning what my limits were was really important. So yeah.
What would you, if somebody else was going into law school and they had some similar struggles, what do you think would be the best thing to say to them?
Probably just let them know that they're not the only person struggling with those things, and that not to feel scared to reach out for resources and help because they are there. So just to really utilize those.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is. It's the whole culture around mental health and things like that have really changed. Like when I was growing up, it was just white knuckle it and grin and bear it.
No, I do like seeing that a lot of the school systems are offering a lot better things for people, which is really nice.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that starts to like reflect in the legal profession more as well. Because burnout's like real for a lot of people, or just buckling under the stress. So I'm hoping that can change. It might make me a little bit more inclined to go towards like the legal practice route. But right now, like I said, I'm keeping my options open, seeing what's out there for me. So
yeah, would you ever consider being like a strong advocate for law school and like students and mental health?
Yeah, I mean, I think I spoke out about it quite a bit while I was going through law school. I definitely am pretty vocal about stuff like that. I don't know that what route I could really take to like do more of that, and maybe that would be great. I think I maybe have some other things I'm focusing on right now. I think too, like just personalizing the experience and like talking about what you're going through publicly helps other people, but also knowing that I can only take on so much, right, before it impacts me again. And so setting my own boundaries is pretty important.
So what's our shoot, I just had it. Yeah, okay, so what made you like go to law school? What made you like start your own business?
So I like stumbled into the legal profession kind of. We were talking about this before. I was trading horses professionally. This was what I did like right out of high school. And I had a really bad fall. I got a head injury. I couldn't really, it took a while to recover. And then I decided to get like a more conventional job. And so I got a job as a receptionist at a law firm. And once I got in there, it was a small like startup firm. There was 2 lawyers at the time and 2 support staff, me and one other girl. And so they sort of saw I had some aptitude and they trained me to be a legal assistant. And then the firm was growing, and Worked there for 6 or 7 years, and then under like really strong encouragement from the lawyers, decided to go back to school and pursue law school. A big thing, it was a criminal defense like attorney that I was working under, and we had dealt with a lot of like legal aid, farm out files. So we had a lot of like Indigenous clients, and kind of seeing like all these systemic injustices also really made me interested in going to law school. And, you know, I went to law school thinking I'm going to do criminal defense. Got to law school. I have zero interest in doing criminal defense anymore. But I really got into like Aboriginal rights law and stuff like that. And that's kind of my main area of interest, I suppose. But yeah, that's kind of what drove me to pursue law school. It just seemed like something I had aptitude for, and then also something that I could use that education to make some real like tangible societal changes or like impact people's lives. It seemed like an important profession. And then in terms of my business, like I would honestly say student debt was like a big driver. Like while I was in school, I was like, okay, I need more income. Like law school is so expensive. It's really cost prohibitive. And I started beading, which I have only been doing for like 2 years now, maybe.
Really?
Maybe not even
insane.
quite.
It's so good.
And I noticed I just had, like a lot of talent for it. And people were interested in buying some of my things. And it was kind of like hit or miss. I was like, oh, even if I make like a couple $100 a month, that would be helpful. Like that's at the point I was at. And then I just kind of found like a niche and a style that's like pretty signature to me. And then it just kind of like blew up in the last maybe like 6 to 9 months. It's been going really well. And now that it's doing that, it's like I'm sticking with it. Sometimes it's a lot to do on top of my full-time job too, but it's a different kind of work. It's not so much like mentally demanding. It's kind of like busy work. I gotta watch TV and hang out while I do it, so it's not super stressful. Yeah.
Do you find it relaxing then?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so many orders to get through. That part's not really relaxing, but I am like a meticulous person, so I think kind of just like the nature of the work, I do find it pretty relaxing. Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious about the modeling. How did like you get into that?
Yeah,
I love
so
looking at the pictures. I know. I'm like your fan from afar.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. So I actually did a bit of modeling work when I was like 18 or 19. And I liked it, but at the same point felt a bit kind of, I don't know, just disenchanted with it. It was very like a different time, I guess, because this would have been, like almost 15 years ago. And the culture around it was very much like everyone has to look a really specific way. It was largely like really white centric industry. You couldn't really like have a lot of self-expression. Like I'm very heavily tattooed, so like that wouldn't have been okay at the time. And none of the stuff I was doing was really like tied into culture or anything that I really cared about. So I very quickly was like, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this anymore. Then a couple of summers ago, I just saw like an open model call for like Edmonton Indigenous Fashion Week. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. It's like a fashion week just for like Indigenous creatives. And obviously I'm really proud of like my Indigenous background. I'm really involved in like community and culture. And so I thought that would be a really cool thing to just apply for. I didn't really think I would get chosen because I had no experience. And then me and my cousin actually both got selected. So we did together. We'd both never done like a fashion show or anything like that. And then from there, there's been, like photo shoots for like clothing for Indigenous designers. Most of them are like local, but like there's some designers I've gotten to walk for, like do photo shoots for that have been featured in like Vogue and stuff. So it's like a like point in time where Indigenous fashion is like really blowing up and it's getting a lot of international recognition. I'm not really like on that point. I just kind of do it really casually as like a passion project, being involved with that. But yeah, once again, it was just kind of saw a post on Facebook and like decided to throw my hat in, and see if I got selected, and I did. And then now actually I've been asked to debut like my jewelry collection in some fashion shows this year. So I'm really excited to do that.
That's very exciting.
To be like on the other end of it will be cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, the pictures always look so good, and I love seeing the fashion. You came in with like this beautiful jacket too, which is super nice.
Yeah, it's wow. It'd be weird to just like get up and do a walk.
You should check out our Facebook. I'm sure it'll be on there at some point.
Yeah, it is beautiful. So, what was your first achievement and the story behind it? Like, whatever achievement you find to be like that was something.
Like ever.
Wow. Whichever one you think is great for you.
I think for me, I would just say just generally like starting this beadwork business because it's not something I ever like envisioned for myself, like running a business or really having that like control and autonomy over my own like work or income and things like that. So for me, it's been like a really cool and empowering experience. And just watching it grow. Like I don't have kids, so maybe it's like the closest thing for me is it's my little baby, but it's growing really fast. I'm really proud of myself for doing that. So
it is an achievement. That's awesome. And especially how well it is. I mean, I couldn't believe when I was walking around and they're like, "Hey, is that Kristen?" I was like, "Yeah."
That's cool. Yeah, like I had no idea.
Super awesome.
No, it's so good. And it's so hard to be an entrepreneur. It takes a lot to like stick with it.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah. Well, there's times where you're like, oh, I made all this stuff and like nobody's buying it. Like, I don't know. It's really like ebbs and flows. But now, until you get to a point where like now I'm like, this is consistently like a way I can make income. And it's just mostly reliant on like the time and effort I put into it as opposed to like before where it's like, I'm making something just hoping people might like it. I've kind of figured out what people really want and like want to purchase, but what I enjoy making too. And that's like a reflection of my creativity. So it's been really cool to find that.
That's a good balance.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I've in construction before when I used to have a bunch of clients, I just, I got to the point where I just like hated it because I was always making these things that nobody liked. Like I didn't like. They loved.
Yeah.
It was like I don't want to make this, but you're paying me, so I have to do it. And then now we get to create whatever we want. And I love that.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
What is one piece of advice you would give others just starting out in business?
I think the main thing, is like don't give up, don't be disheartened. I think you have to be smart about it at the same point. Like if something isn't working, you need to learn to like pivot and like figure out maybe what kind of the downfalls are about what you're doing at that time, but also just know that things aren't just going to like take off in a linear fashion. It's not just like a straight climb, right? Like there's going to be times where you wonder like, why am I even doing this? Is this even like going to work out? But I think if you're like perseverant, then it definitely like you reap the rewards at the end of that.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the pivot. If you can't adapt, then like what's the point, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, well, so just...
Oh, can I? So when did you realize your business idea had the potential to be really successful?
You know what? It was actually really funny. I had this idea, and like anyone who's familiar with my beadwork knows that I like incorporate a lot of traditional like indigenous medicines into my pieces. And so the first time I was like, I'm going to make a bunch of earrings and I'm going to try and like incorporate sweetgrass into them, which is like one of the 4 sacred medicines. And it's on my earrings and your pin. I remember posting them for sale there's like 7 pairs of earrings, which like takes quite a while to make. So I'd spent like the week, let's say, making them. I posted them for sale, and within like 2 hours, they all sold. So it was about like close to $1,000 worth of product in like 2 hours that I sold. And I was like, oh, like I've before been like sitting on product for weeks. And then I just started, making a lot of designs like that. And yeah, like most of my stuff sells in a day. Like I really don't struggle selling. It's usually people messaging me and me having me like, sorry, those are sold. Like you can order them, but you're gonna have to wait probably like a month now because my order books are really full. Like it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
So just kind of finding that niche that was a product that people wanted. And I've seen a few other people making similar products, but I think that I also at the same point have like a very unique like aesthetic to my product. And like I guess sometimes it's like flattering, but I've seen some work where it's like this is clearly like trying to copy my work, which is something where I'm like, I don't know how to like navigate that. That's something I'm not entirely sure, because it's like, well, what counts, is like intellectual property. Like, are you copying my stuff too closely? But at the same point, it's like I'm the original artist, and most people are now like aware of that. So I just kind of don't let that bother me too much.
You should brand it, like you should have a little insignia on them. Well, people will know, like, hey, that's what.
Well, they come on like your card, right?
Yeah, but the card goes away, right? If you have like something. I think it's just a certain bead that was like just one bead on there that was like, hey, this is
my signature thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Is that weird?
I'd have to think about that. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone do something like that.
It's like even your jacket,
Yeah.
Something like that. On some of the artwork I do in homes, I have actually, it's just all it is what are those called?
Corporate seal.
A corporate seal, except we've had it redone that says like Hunter Designs. And then I just like stamp it onto each.
Yeah, like maybe a way to like brand the backing or something.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
this is original.
Yeah.
Not a copy.
Yeah,
very original.
Yeah, that would be cool.
No, because your work is very beautiful.
It is.
Thank you.
Very nice. I love it.
I would hate if somebody was ripping my stuff off.
I mean, it's flattering on one end, and then usually when something like gets sent to me or something, people are like, well, we can tell it's not yours, but this person, and it's like, well, like when I started out, I was like inspired by because you're learning and you're like looking towards other artists that you like their work. I think was one of the turning points was when I like found my own style, my own aesthetic, and leaned into that instead of trying to like not copy, but maybe like just sort of replicate even broadly like anyone else's work. I think finding your own lane is kind of what makes you be able to succeed.
So Gucci used to their family used to just make the purses and stuff themselves, and then they quality controlled other people making them. Is that something you thought about doing? Getting like a line of people and just like staring over top of them, like, no, you got to do it like this.
So it's something me and my boyfriend have like kind of joked about. Like in a way, I think it's hard because he's like, well, how could you maybe once I'm done wanting to do beadwork, if I, go elsewhere with my career and decide to kind of put the needle and thread down, so to speak, if, I could like sell my brand on to somebody else. And I was kind of thinking like, it's hard. And that's one of the difficult parts about this like business model, I guess, is people are buying things from you like as an artisan. And I feel like people wouldn't appreciate if they found out that you were like passing that work off to somebody else, even if it looked really similar or like were my designs. I think that's like a big part about buying like indigenous, like handcrafted products. And so for me, that's been one of the biggest challenges right now is, obviously I would like my business to keep growing, but I have limited capacity as to like how much volume I can actually create and sell. And so it's at a point where my products are so in demand, which is like a really good problem to have, but sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I have so much to get through this month. You know, I'm planning that far ahead in terms of how much stuff I have to make, which is like pretty unusual, I'd say, for like a independent like artisan to have like planning, oh, I already have like 40 orders in the books kind of thing. As well as me still trying to make stuff, because I want to not just be remaking designs I've already made, which is what most of my orders are. I want to keep being able to be creative and make new things. So I'm balancing that. So now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, do I need to start reevaluating my pricing, which is already quite high for like the products that I'm selling. So I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, maybe I need to start charging more. And that's like how I grow my business, isn't by creating more product, but by increasing the sale prices. And then also, I think that you can do that if there's some level of like exclusivity to what you're selling. So that's kind of where I'm at with reevaluating things like that, because I can't even really keep up with like the demand right now. So, which is like every entrepreneur's dream and nightmare all at the same time.
I have a couple ideas. I'm like a problem solver kind of guy. What if, you know, those like for pieces of paper that got those punches, and then it like kind of, I want to say like brails it, but I know that's wrong. Like
perforated?
Yeah, perforates, right? What if you had something like that for the leather on the bag, right? And then that was your brand. And then you made like an artisan like master class where you like picked a few people that would work for you that could like, you like apprenticed, right? And then you just like had them do all the work eventually.
I mean, that's something I could think about. I don't know that anyone's like done that before, but I mean, maybe that's why it's a cool idea. I mean, I don't know. Because I am honestly like newer in like the beadwork scene, even it's hard to know what like people would raise their eyebrows at and be like side eye you, or you know, it's
I think if you made it like an actual like prestigious thing, like a master class of some sort, then people wouldn't really raise an eye, because it's like you've weaned out people. You found these artists that can like continue on the legacy. Right?
And really, I mean, I do market it like as a brand, not so much as me. It's not like Beadwork by Kristen, you know, that's not really how I've branded it. So, I mean, there is some, you know, potential opportunity for that. I even just like joked with my boyfriend being like, can I teach you how to like braid the sweetgrass? Like, even if I do all the beadwork, but you've like done that's like the most, it's not that I don't like doing it, but it's like very repetitive, and some days I'm like, oh, I just have to braid sweetgrass today, and it's like I want to sit down for like 3 hours and just get a bunch of it out of the way, but it's like not my favorite thing. I was like, even if I could get somebody to just do that part, I could make more stuff and I wouldn't have to do that, and it would be nice. But
there was a movie or like a documentary about an artist who he taught a couple people how to do his work, and then they just made a bunch of these like paintings, and then those paintings still go for like thousands and thousands of dollars. You know, I don't know, something to think about.
Or put out an ad for a sweetgrass braider.
I know. I was thinking about that.
There could be a partnership there, right?
I was like,
I don't know. We love to do this kind of stuff where we just
save me a step.
But dissect businesses and try to make it better, but not that you're.
No, I mean, I'm so new at this, and like you said, like, you know, everyone hopes that their product is so in demand that they can't keep up. But when you're like new at it, then you're like, well, I don't actually know what to do with that. Like, so it's definitely, I'm like learning the ropes and having to do it like super fast. So it's definitely.
If you had a line of people, then you could just focus on the design part, which you said you really liked, right? And like focusing on these new types of ways and spend your time doing that instead of, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting. I feel like I'm very like anal about everything though. So like, you know, if one thing's off by like a millimeter, I'm like, no, I have to redo it and like fix everything. And I honestly feel like I would have a hard time like letting go and like letting someone, you know, like I almost feel like this sense of like personal responsibility, and I think it would be hard for me to be like, okay, somebody else can do this for me.
That's what makes Gucci, right? Is the quality control there. right? It's like, if there's even a stitch off, they like chuck it away, right? So like the quality control part could be like, hey, you know, this has to be perfect. I inspect them, and then if it's no good, I chuck it, and you get docked. Like it's got to be just right.
I think that's a hard thing for a lot of entrepreneurs when they're starting out, though. Yeah, you try to do everything in your business, but it's hard to like fire yourself from just one thing.
Yeah, it's.
But like you were saying before, it is like your baby, so it's not something that you just want to like pass off, you know?
Yeah. I think as an artist, it's like a whole craft, right? And so, I mean, it's interesting, I guess, to think about like these like highly acclaimed artists who've like trained, you know, apprentices under them. Then I have to think, well, do I have the capacity to like be training apprentices right now? It's hard because it is just kind of like a side gig. I mean, maybe if I decided to like do this full time, it would be something worth considering. But
an internship to become the apprentice.
Just like a really
free sweet raspberry.
You'd be surprised what people do by just asking, right?
I think we're on the Y now.
Are we? Oh wow, we're flying through this. You're doing really well.
Thank you. Yeah. First podcast, so
you're crushing it.
Yeah, that's good.
Why do you believe entrepreneurship is so important for Métis citizens?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is really important, obviously, for Indigenous people broadly, and then for Métis people specifically. I think we're like largely been disadvantaged in so many ways, like historically, which has persisted into, you know, now. A lot of us are finally reaching a point where we're getting access to education. We're getting like to be economically self-sufficient. And I think as a people, we're incredibly like resilient, and we're very independent thinkers. Like I just think we have so many great ideas that deserve to be seen and that we deserve to be compensated for. And I think, you know, we're getting to a point where people actually like see the value in their voices that maybe we were like discouraged from really pursuing these things before. Like, I don't know. Yeah. As a Métis person, or like I said, Indigenous people more broadly, we've kind of, you know, been pushed down for so long. It's really time that we, you know, say like enough is enough. Like and because of those experiences, we have so many like insights and just really unique perspectives. So I think that we will have so many innovative ideas. And I think it's important that we have like control over our own lives and paths. So for me, I mean, that's been a really cool thing about entrepreneurship, like I said, is having like autonomy over like what my work looks like, how much money I'm making from it, how much time I want to dedicate to it. Like if I wanted to, I could potentially do this as a full-time thing. That's not what I'm deciding to do right now. But if that were the case, you know, I could really like carve out exactly what I want my day-to-day life to look like. I think that's something that's really important.
Great answer. What do you believe, why do you believe your product or service is unique compared to others in the market? I think you answered that, but you can answer.
Yeah, like, you know, obviously there's a lot of jewelry for sale in general, and there's even a lot of Indigenous beadwork for sale in general. When I started my beading, I just want to say first that I love traditional beadwork so much, but that is not my wheelhouse. I don't do traditional beading, like the floral beadwork. I think it's amazing. I've you know done a few pieces like that just for myself or like family members. I'm definitely not as skillful at it as what I do, but I really thought, you know, who am I as a person? So I feel that I'm this contemporary, like career-oriented Métis woman. Well, like, what would I want to see made that I could wear to like the office? What I could wear to work? That I could, you know, and like obviously I'm into fashion, so like I was like, okay, like I want to feel kind of like bougie and like, you know, have some bling and like this kind of stuff. And so I started kind of trying to make a product that I would want to wear. And by doing that, like I think it just in itself kind of became a unique product. A lot of beadwork, I think, is more geared towards like women who maybe are going to like traditional events or like, you know, like powwows or different community events or ceremony. And I think that's amazing. But like what I kind of wanted to pull into it was like, and you can wear my jewelry to those kind of events. I'm not saying you can't, but was like, how do I combine this idea of like in traditional, like indigenous culture and aesthetic with like modern contemporary, like businesswoman? And that's sort of how I've tried to like pull them together. And then also just like, this is kind of going off on a side tangent, but when I was growing up, I was like actually a super huge tomboy. And it wasn't until like my mid-20s, I want to say, that I started embracing like femininity, and like I've become a very like girly person, I guess. I would be how I'd put it. But like, how do I make my work really bold but feminine? And it's just like quite different than other beadwork I've seen. Yeah, and when people see my work, they usually now, even like online, like I sell my products. I sell a lot of products down to the States. I would say like at least half of my customers are in the US, and then all across Canada. I've even sold pieces to Australia. So like my work is like quite
international.
Yeah, like it's not just awesome. Here, but like there's certain like online pockets of where people are selling beadwork. I would say most people would like recognize my work in those circles. So yeah, I think it was more just like, how do I make an expression of myself? And because there are other women who are like me, who like go to the office and are wearing business clothes and are still really proud of their culture, or like bring that into their daily life and work. So how do I create a product that reflects all of those things? And then that kind of ended up being what it is. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, you definitely nailed it, because I get those vibes from it, even like before you said all that. But then after you say that and like internalizing it and thinking about all the pieces, that's totally what it is.
Yeah.
Well done. Seriously. Just hearing the background of that and seeing it for what it is, you nailed it.
Yeah, and like I do make men's products as well. So like I do have some like men's. I do make men's products as well. Like my bolo ties are really popular as well. But also I make women's bolo ties, which a lot of women do purchase. And I made a couple bolo ties and I started wearing them almost more like as a necklace, but it's like a really cool style, I think, and I would wear it with like dress clothes or whatever. And but yeah, I definitely do make masculine pieces as well, which I think I'm good at, because I'm drawn to like bold colored designs and like bold but like at the same point neutral color palettes. Like I guess I use like a lot of like blacks and like silvers and golds and things like that do end up looking like very masculine. But I would say like my bread and butter of my business is like earrings. Yeah.
So. Wow, they're beautiful. Wait, this will probably be how do you manage your time effectively when juggling multiple priorities, which you obviously have? It's gonna be hard.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that I've been struggling with, is like, how do I maintain a work-life balance? And I mean, I don't think I'm that good at it, because I just came out of law school where there's like this expectation where like you don't have a work-life balance. You know, you're like in class, or you're studying, or you're working on assignments, or, you know, doing whatever other side, you know, like I was on the Indigenous Law Students Association executive, or you're like volunteering, like you're always doing something. And I think that's kind of like a legacy that I'm still carrying into my life now, that I'm now trying to like reevaluate, because it's not healthy to be working all of the time. But that is one reason why this is kind of nice, because I can work it around whatever schedule I want. Like I don't, I want to get orders done like in a timely fashion, but at the same point, I'm pretty upfront with customers. Like, there's a wait list. I can't tell you exactly how long. I can give you kind of like a ballpark because I want to give myself some flexibility. But carving out time just to like enjoy my life. Like, also, it's like, what's the point of making extra income if I can't like enjoy it, I guess. So, yeah, I think that's honestly something I'm still learning because I work, my 9 to 5, and then I'm beading almost usually like 7 days a week still. So, and it's hard because sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, well, me and my partner, let's say like we hung out this week, like every night at home, but it's like, is my full attention like being given to that? So I'm definitely trying to strike a balance, and that's kind of where I'm at that point with, okay, like, do I need to reevaluate my prices? Do I need to raise my prices so that I'm, bringing in the same income, but not having to work so hard, so that I can have better work-life balance? And so that's something that I'm probably the biggest thing right now that I'm having to reconsider and think about, because I want to have more free time without, and like I said, if I'm already like selling my products quite easily, then like if I raise my prices X amount, I'm sure I'm still going to sell product. So yeah, this is part of like the learning the ropes aspect that I'm going through.
Yeah, for law school, I did like 0 social activities. I don't even think I went to any events.
I went to hardly any, but I don't know how. I mean, maybe it's because, like I said, I went back as like a mature student. I think maybe some people just had the energy because they were, 22 or whatever. I just could not understand it. Like, I was in some chats where it'd be like, we're going to like blank bar tonight, and it was like on a Tuesday, and I'm like, how? And then you're at class at like 9 a.m. the next day, all day. And they're, part of these student organizations and it was just like exhausting.
Yeah. I didn't even get involved in any organizations either, because like we have 2 kids, so my evenings were always just
in multiple businesses.
No, that's a lot.
I didn't do a lot of the business stuff while I was in law school. Yeah, you took on way more.
No, it's a lot.
Yeah, I'm very glad to be done as well. It's nice. You're like, now I'm never gonna look at those books again.
No, seriously.
You've already sold half of them.
Bye-bye,
I like have my constitutional law textbook that I use because like sometimes when I'm making stuff like bolo ties, I need to put something really heavy on them to like glue them to the felt, and like I literally use my constitutional law book. I'm like, this is the biggest book I've ever owned, and like that's what it's used for now.
Yep.
It's like on my beading desk. Like that's just where it stays, so I can use it for that. Like a giant weight. It's so bad. I will never look at it for any other reason though.
I think the only textbook I kept was tax law. I took that class just because I was interested in it, but the textbook was like massive. Yeah. And I don't open it now. I just keep it to look at it and be like, I used a book right this big.
To our bed,
I know.
Yeah. That's like amazing to me. Like, I was interested in tax law. I'm like, man, I wish that I was like could find that stuff interesting. I was like, oh, why couldn't I have just had like a mind for like corporate law or something? I don't. So.
But you're in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Crushing it too. Shoot. Yeah, they did that one. Okay. How do you approach customer acquisition and retention strategies? How do you get your clients?
Yeah, this is something that I think I just like have floundered through and somehow found success. Like, I don't know that I have a specific strategy. I try to be really responsive to customers inquiring about something, but like, honestly, I leverage social media a lot. I started an Instagram and just started posting on there. I got to a point where I started, I decided I'm going to put effort into like taking like high quality photos and like having a certain aesthetic. So like my feed looks like cohesive and everything, which has worked pretty well. But then, there's actually like several Facebook groups that are like specifically devoted towards just like beadwork for sale. I started posting in that. And then I'd, be like, you can follow my Instagram. I started getting followers. Then, like, for some reason, I did not actually start a Facebook page until literally a month and a half ago for my beadwork. So I did that. And now my Facebook has almost like surpassed my followers for Instagram in a month and a half. So I'm like, clearly this platform is like way better for whatever reason for what I'm doing. I don't know why I didn't do that before. I do pay for some sponsored ads and stuff. I've done a couple giveaways on my Facebook, and I've gotten quite a few followers from that. Like I said, I post on these like dedicated Facebook groups. I get a lot of messages from there. I have an Etsy shop that's quite successful.
Is that how you sell to the States? The Etsy shop? But how did
yeah, so on Etsy, I sell a lot of stuff to the States and Canada, and then also just posting on these Facebook groups. Like there's one group specifically I had a lot of success with. I haven't as much recently, but I still post in it. It has, I don't know, well over 100,000 people in this group.
Wow.
And so you post and there's like a lot of people who see it. It's funny because I haven't had as much success posting things for sale, like ads, whatever, there recently, but now because I did like all the legwork and started there, I have enough followers and stuff on my own personal pages that it doesn't really matter if things sell more like directly and organically, I guess. I've quite a few repeat customers. I've had a customer order something like personally, and then they were like, oh, our First Nations is having this big conference and we want to give gifts for like elders. Can you make us $1,000 worth of stuff? And then I just like make whatever I want or however, stuff like that is good because, giving gifts is like a traditional Indigenous practice especially for like knowledge holders or elders or speakers, things like that. So I've had some business through that. But yeah, I think just having good relations with my customers. I try to be really personable. Like I want my brand to feel like you're dealing with like an actual person. I think that's important.
You came right up to my door. I really like that.
Yeah. So, I just kind of miraculously figured that out. And now it's more people just sending me DMs or being like, do you have anything in stock? And I'll be like, I have these 2 pairs of earrings, that's it. And then they're sold. Like it's quite easy now, but
that personal brand you've been bringing, right? People just want a little piece of you. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And I think it ties well into like the whole aspect of me, like being interested in fashion and stuff. I try to wear my own pieces when I go to events or like wear it to work or into community. People see something you're wearing, then they wonder, oh, where did you get it? And then I can be like, actually, I make it and I sell them. You know what I mean? Here's my card. It's quite personable. And just social media has been a huge game changer for me for sure. And Etsy. I mean, one thing I don't love about Etsy is just like all the fees and like everything associated with it. But sometimes in a way it's worth it because you don't actually have to be like DMing people because that is like that is a whole other thing that's like taking up how much of your time and like you have to factor that into like what you're getting compensated. So it's definitely, I'd say, okay, Etsy's charging me these fees, but people are just like clicking and buying things and I'm not having to like correspond with them a whole lot. So it makes it a lot better. I'm willing to pay those fees. And then also I do have I have a business relationship with the Wanaskewin Collective on Broadway. So they have some of my work and they buy stuff from me to sell there.
Nice.
So that's another avenue of sales that I have.
I like these little like pop-up shops of local artists and stuff. I think that's a really nice trend going on.
Yeah. I've done some markets before too. I generally don't do them anymore though because I don't know, it's like so hit or miss. I also feel like when people go to markets, they're honestly looking to spend as much as like my products are priced at, which is fair. If I'm going to a little artisan market, I'm probably not wanting to spend like a ton of money necessarily either. So it's just not the right market for me, is what I've learned. I've had some that were successful, but it's also like you kind of have to sit there all day. That's time that I could be using to like be making other products or whatever. So yeah, I don't tend to do markets anymore, but I did start out. That's how I started out, was mostly doing markets. Yeah.
That kind of rolls right into the next question. How do you identify and capitalize on emerging market trends? Finding the right markets for yourself.
Well, they're not markets. Markets are not the right market for me. No, I don't know. Like, it's just, I don't know that I'm that like business minded to like think of things in that way. Like, I think I just like have managed to find things. It almost just feels like by luck in some ways. But one thing I've been trying to do is like roll out different products that still have like the same like key components that make it like my work, but that are like different. And so reinvesting into like materials that other people, I try to source out like really different and unique materials so that my designs, because like I said, I've seen people kind of trying to like emulate my work so that I can then pivot again and be like, but actually now my product is even more unique. So you can't keep, and just kind of staying ahead of it. But by doing that, it's like drawn in a lot of new customers. So like, I've never seen anything like that looks like this before. So I think just like keeping my creativity up and keep pushing myself to make different things, and some things flop, and I sit on it for a while and go, okay, like I finally sold this, I'm probably not going to make something similar again. And some things you sell like right away and you're like, okay, now I can make a similar product in different color palettes or different things like that. So I think it's more just like keeping my products like fresh, and which is good for me because I like being creative. So
yeah, the fact that you can see that and you know that and you're actually doing things around that, oh my god, you're
miles ahead of lots of business people.
Yeah, for sure. We've had a few people sitting here, and nobody speaks like that. Seriously. Like, that's good. That's a really good
it's just
thing.
Funny because like even when you're like, we're gonna talk, I was like seeing the questions like as an entrepreneur, I was like, I don't think I've ever called myself an entrepreneur like at all. So it was definitely interesting to think of myself that way. Yeah.
You definitely have a mind for it. Yeah. Even if you don't think so.
Yeah.
You really do.
And most entrepreneurs, they believe that they're not doing enough. And the pivoting, you're saying all the right things. Like, you were definitely an entrepreneur.
Yep.
How do you create work-life balance? You know
we
what?
kind of
talked about that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if there's anything you want to talk about, we crushed all of that.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know that I have work-life balance yet. I think the one nice thing, though, even though I am, like, I would say technically between my full-time job and this side thing, I probably put in 60 or 70 hours a week every week, which is a lot. But the nice thing that I kind of said before is that this type of work is like so different than like what my day job is. Like, my day job is very like mentally demanding. It's like, a lot of research and writing and corresponding with people and planning. Like, technically I'm a project coordinator. So yeah, that like project planning piece. It's that kind of work. Beading, I mean, it's more like creative. It's like a tactile activity. It's something that has like a really like repetitive skill set, but like in a way that I don't have to like think too hard about what I'm doing. Like, it's almost like muscle memory for me now, right? So I can be like sitting there watching my like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or whatever, or baseball or whatever it is that I'm watching that day. Those are usually like one or the other that's on the TV, but if I'm being honest. But so I can do things that are like, I'm not mentally draining myself so much. It's still a lot, but I think it's good that I'm at least like breaking it up. Because like even when I was in law school at the time before I started doing this, and I was serving and going to law school, and beading ended up replacing basically my serving, my need to like work at a bar or whatever. But even with that, I was like, hey, it's still both work, but there's such different types of work. So at least for me, like that is giving me some semblance of balance. If I had to sit and put 70 hours in at the office, I don't think I could do that. If I had to sit and put 70 hours in of beading, I don't think I could do that. But at least if I like split up the type of work that I'm doing, it's more feasible for me to put in that many hours. And then being able to like have it be like activity that I can, sit on the couch, watch TV, talk with my partner, hang out with my dog. Like it doesn't make it feel as much like work. It's still, I get to use at least like half my brain to do like enjoyable things and talk to my partner and stuff. Yeah.
Would you have a final piece of advice to anyone who has a business idea or anything that they want to get started on?
I would say like just do it, like try it. Especially, if it's something that you can kind of just kind of dip your toes in and see if you like it, if it is going to get traction. I don't tend to have advice for people who just want to like jump all into an idea because I didn't do that. So I don't know exactly what that's like, but I'd say it's worth doing. I think even if it's just like a side hustle, like it is for me, there's definitely some level of, real empowerment or, just feeling like you own like a part of your life in a way that you don't when you're like an employee or, like working for somebody else. I honestly just think you should move forward and try it out. I don't think anyone regrets trying something, even if it doesn't work out. I think you regret not trying. So, yeah.
I think you're going to be successful at whatever you do. The most successful people are people who can use both analytical and creative mindsets. It sounds like you use them both on a daily.
Yeah.
You're going to some serious places in the future for sure.
Thank
awesome.
you. Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Having you.
It's so nice to see
Thanks.
you again.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Well, if there's anything else you wanted to say, that would be the time. That's kind of it.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Except maybe like follow my socials and
plug your handles.
Yeah, so my Instagram is, my business name is Katawashishin Beadwork, but it's spelled like Katawashishin Beadwork. I'm sure we could like tag it in the video.
Yeah.
But I have an Instagram and a Facebook, and give me a follow, and if you like some of my jewelry, hit me up. That's about it. Always gotta plug the business, I guess.
Definitely. Okay, well, thanks for coming. This has been the Global Falcons podcast.